You don't even do that well from the front seat.
Okay.
And the bear's coming with the cup and spoon.
That's
Oh,
a straight up
no.
PBR for the table.
Yeah.
I think it called. I think it called.
She ain't judging us at all.
Did you really just high five over me right
No,
now?
we didn't. You can
And we're live.
Hey.
Hello.
Wait, last week.
You don't even do that well from the front seat.
Okay.
And the bear's coming with the cup and spoon.
That's
Oh,
a straight up
no.
PBR for the table.
Yeah.
I think it called. I think it called.
She ain't judging us at all.
Did you really just high five over me right
No,
now?
we didn't. You can
And we're live.
Hey.
Hello.
Wait, last week.
You don't even do that well from the front seat.
Might help if I turned on the volume. No one can hear us. So you can try again. There
Oh
you
my
go.
God.
Listen, Linda. You go ahead and do the
Yes.
intro again.
Mhm.
Do the intro again.
Welcome to Waking Up. I am Pep, aka Sean, and with me is my lovely yet slightly growly co-host,
I know. As I said before,
Arugs. Mhm.
as I said before, it's like I just woke up 20 minutes ago, and so my voice is like super low and growly.
Mhm.
It's sort of I just woke up and sort of I'm still trying to get over being sick. And I wasn't like super sick, but like it's that weird annoying sick. But so
Mhm.
apparently I got sexy telephone operator voice without even
Yeah,
trying.
that's the one bonus. The only I think bonus to being sick is when you get when you get sick, you kind of get that little bit low drop
Yeah,
and that somewhat growly sound, and so it's kind of like you get sexy voice when you're sick.
I
Because
know.
guys do it too. Guys can do the same thing.
I know. Awesome. Isn't that awesome?
Mhm. Yeah, I guess yeah, if you're gonna be sick, at least you can sound sexy when you're doing it, as long as you're not snotty at the same time, because that doesn't work.
No, but I'm not. So it's fine.
Mm, exactly.
See,
So
look, Sean,
welcome.
I can make you bigger.
What?
Look, I can make you bigger.
Yeah, you can. Okay, so last time this happened, and I didn't tell you before the stream when I got my camera working right.
There we go.
So this time I'm gonna tell you when I get my camera working right before the next stream,
Yes,
so that
please.
you don't have to end up playing
Yeah,
with this.
because
'Cause I
I
remember what
just
happened last
adjusted
time.
you so that you were
You would
closer, so that
yes.
you're not so far away, so people could see
So I
your
don't look
fucking
so
face.
well, the other thing I was gonna do is I was gonna get, like, really close.
Oh yeah, do it. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, here.
Mm.
Ah.
Oh my God. I was trying to be sexy. You just went weird. Okay, that's cool. All right, let's.
That's my bread and butter right there.
I know
Ooh.
it is. You're lucky. You're cute. All right, so let's go through the disclaimer. Here on Waking Up, we are not here to bash anybody's faith or religion. We think faith and religion are beautiful things when done in emotionally, mentally healthy manner. Sean and I are neither one of us are licensed professionals. We are not licensed therapists. We are not experts on anything. We're not counselors, life coaches, any of that. Um, we are two people who are deconstructing our lives and reconstructing them as decent human beings. And we are
Mhm.
trying to navigate all of the things that all of that deconstruction, and healing brings us. So, but if you do need professional help, you please contact us at Nerd Mom Ace on all the socials. We do have some resources that can help you get in touch with somebody who can get you the help that you need, that can help you. Sean and I both grew up in the Carolinas, deep in the buckle of the Bible Belt.
Big
At
old
the turn of the century, I get to say that, the turn of the century.
Oh god, don't say it
I
like
know,
that.
I
Oh,
know.
that hurts.
You know what? I like saying it.
Oh,
It makes it. You know what? I am okay with it. I think I'm okay. So
that's
we,
fine.
um, we both grew up Southern Baptist. For those of you who don't know, Southern Baptist is a evangelical denomination of the Judeo-Christian faith, and there are denominations that are much more evangelical, but there are some that are not are a little bit more liberal and lenient. So,
Mhm.
yeah. So we are not a end all be all of Christian conservatism, but I could tell you, Southern Baptist nowadays has become very conservative Christian. So, yeah.
The SBC has actually gone farther in that direction than I
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah.
Like, especially in the last couple years, they have.
Yeah.
Hey, Bear.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely. Like they used to be very
it's disturbing.
moderate. When we were I think when we were part of the church, they
Mhm.
were very moderate. They were still on the conservative side, but I think there was a lot of things that they were still a little like they just didn't talk about. I mean, they just didn't
Mhm.
subversively, but now it's like very flat out, like they swung very
Yeah. You
conservative.
just
Yeah.
yeah, you just have to look at what the what they voted on in the last one. If you're interested in that stuff, you can easily
Oh
look it
yeah,
up
it is
while
very
we're yeah.
political too. They are very Southern Baptists
That's
are
when it all changed.
very became very political, and they were not very because that was not polite. Like because it was not
Yeah.
polite. You don't talk about politics. Like you had your politics, but you
Mhm.
talk about it outside of church. Now, I think that's where it got swung. Is like politics
They
became
marry the two, yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
whew, big difference.
we left the church post
Mhm.
politics, political Southern Baptist. So
Yeah.
now they are pretty conservative and pretty. It is what
So,
it is.
but everybody's experience is different.
Yes.
So, I think I think ours was pretty for the church. I think it was pretty high control
It
for
was
the
very high control. I
yeah.
actually I actually had that come up in therapy this past week, family therapy.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Speaking of high control, because we were discussing agreements, like agreements you have with somebody else, and because to help
Mhm.
things, and I'm going to agree to this, and we're going to agree that this is what it needs to work for our relationships to work. Like
Okay.
this is what I agree to. If you can't agree to it, then either you find a compromise that you both agree to, or you just
Mhm.
like that's just I need this agreement, and if you can't agree to it, then we're whatever. And I was
Okay.
I found myself being very combative and very resistant. And not to,
Mhm.
and it's like the agreements that we were discussing weren't anything that I
Mhm.
should feel resistant to. Does that make sense? Like it was like
Was this your individual therapy or was this family therapy?
family therapy. So
Okay.
it
Okay.
was
That makes more sense.
yeah, but I
Mhm.
was very resistant, and I was very like I was defensive. And nothing about what we were discussing had any like I'm like, why am I not like I instantly went defensive. I instantly turned off the
It was instinctual
yes, it was very
almost.
much was
Mhm.
so. And it's like, why? Why? And then it dawned like I'm literally like we were talking about it. All of a sudden it dawned on me. And the therapist saw my face, like, because my face, my dawn, like my glass shattering face is like
Uh-huh.
because it literally looks
Wide-eyed.
like somebody
Yeah.
like smacked me in the face, and she stops and
Mhm.
she's like, "What?" And
Care to share?
yes, I go, I just realized why I am being very combative. Like it's or
Mhm.
resistant. It wasn't even combative, but
Mhm.
resistant. And I go, it's because it's not that I don't think that these are right, but it's because I've spent my entire life growing up. And I was like, it's my religious trauma. I've spent my entire
Mhm.
life agreeing to rules and agreements and having it dictate everything in about every aspect of my life, that even though these are things and they were like, well, the difference is you get to write these rules and blah 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 blah. I said, but that's not the
Mhm.
point. The point is not that I get to write the rules. It's the fact that there are rules, which is why I am so resistant to it. And it's not like I logically in my head agree with you and agree with what we're talking about, but my nervous system is
Mhm.
instantly going there, and I can't stop it. It's like I can
Mhm.
be aware of it right now. I can be like, okay, this is what my body's doing, but my brain is like, oh, what are you doing? Why are you acting like this? Why are
Yeah.
you doing like you don't understand? And that's what happens when you have a trauma response a lot of times. Is your
Mhm.
brain, your logical brain will go, what are you doing? There's
Yeah.
nothing.
Why am I acting like
Why are
this?
you
Why am
acting
I
that way?
it's
But at the
it's
same time,
almost that out of body
yeah.
disassociate like what are you doing?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And then I go,
Mhm.
this is why my body, it's protecting itself. My body is
Mhm.
protecting itself. Because here's
Yeah.
the thing, and here's where it makes it the most difficult because of my religious trauma. is that logically I knew things were wrong. Logically, I knew these rules were asinine and controlling. And logically, I knew that these were wrong for me or they didn't make sense. But I forced myself to follow them anyway. So my nervous system
Mhm.
is feeling the trauma because I always knew. So trying to put, it's like, okay, well, trying to be aware of it doesn't necessarily work right now.
You had to maintain a lot of cognitive dissonance.
I did. And
You
this is
had
where
like
that
you had
is right now.
agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just the fact that someone is putting that out there, your nervous system is immediately going, "Oh, no, no, no. No, you don't even it doesn't care what it is." Nope.
Yep.
Because I know what it was like when I
Yep.
grew up in that cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah.
And so
I
that
can
was
see
something
that.
I had, like, even now, just sitting there thinking about it. Again, these are
You
agreements
could
and discussions and that I am agreeing to, I am writing to, I am too, but I am still,
Mhm.
it's still incredibly uncomfortable for me that even my nervous system now is just going, what are you doing? Like and I didn't
Yeah.
realize how deep that control, that religious
Mhm.
control and that mental aspect had on me until we started that. And I was like,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what, yeah, and when you're talking about relationships and marriages, because this is one thing I ran into, is whether it's something that started when you were younger, or, it usually gets exacerbated within the relationship. And then why it's so difficult to reconcile is you get that. Especially if you're not recognizing it. You have all that baggage, all of that nervous system kicks in that triggers you when you try to have a conversation. And so it's so incredibly difficult because I remember trying that in my marriage. It's like we would have a conversation that I could have with anyone else about agreements, boundaries, whatever, but my nervous system just took over. And someone had to say, like, you guys don't talk to each other like normal people.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, because
Well,
there's a ton of baggage.
I love the fact the person who did say that to you was her boyfriend.
That was kind of funny. I mean, that's true. Yeah, I remember because they were on the stairs and I was in the what's now my fitness room, and we were going back and forth, and he was like, "Guys, you don't talk to each other like this the way that you're talking to each other. That's not how people talk to each other. That's not normal. That's not like you guys are trying to agree, but you're so combative about it."
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
and you just instantly go there. You instantly
yeah,
go there
mhm,
and it's
yeah.
it's
Hmm.
oh,
Even when you try not to,
yeah.
even when you like, because even when you're seeing yourself going, "Why am I doing this?" In your head, you're like, "Oh my god," you're still doing it, and
Yeah.
it's almost like you can't stop. It's really hard to stop because you're
Not
you're triggered.
right. Well, you're triggered and you're that's like I told you, light it up. It's like the
Hmm.
moment there, it's like something about it, something about their voice, or something about the topic, or something about whatever it is. It's literally like throwing a match. It is like throwing a match on this, like
Yes,
very dry,
dry.
unkept, like pile
Hmm.
of like debris that you haven't
Hmm.
sorted through, that you haven't yet. And it's just like, poof, and you can't
Yeah.
stop it. And that's what I think for me, that's what it feels like when my nervous system
Hmm.
goes into that state. It's like when you're triggered, it's like somebody going, "Pff, watch this." Like,
Poof.
and they don't
Hmm.
even know. Sometimes they don't even know.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do. And they get like they know. But sometimes they don't. And it's like,
Hmm. Yeah. And that's not even including their response. So you get
right.
triggered and you start reacting, and then their response is probably not going to be a healthy one because that's why you're where you're at.
It's like
Um,
they light your fire or you light
uh-huh.
theirs, and then it just sort of
And
spreads. It's like it
that
spreads over to the like your pile of
yeah,
garbage, and yeah, yeah,
you're both ablaze, and nothing positive is going to come from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Oh my gosh.
absolutely,
Uh,
it's a tough one.
I'm sitting in this physical discomfort. It is like if those of you who, I mean, I'm sure you guys have, so I like that's why you're here. But I can't say that you have
Hmm.
before. But like, I don't know what triggering feels like for other people because I don't because I'm only in my
Hmm.
body, and everybody has when they're triggered, their nervous system reacts in all sorts of different ways. But
Hmm.
mine, oh my God, when I'm triggered, which like I'm feeling right now for no reason, again, like it's just the discussion of the discussion that has triggered me. So that
Hmm.
tells me how deep that this trauma runs that I'm gonna have to
Hmm.
deal with before I can move forward in with somebody else. Um, is just like I'm sitting here and I'm like it's hard to breathe.
Mm.
I feel like
Yes.
like my muscles feel all tense. I feel a little
Hmm.
queasy. Like I can feel it in
Yeah.
my face. Like my entire nervous system is literally on fire.
Lit
And
up.
yeah, it's lit up.
Yeah.
And so it's like even just talking about the control,
Yeah.
talking about the agreements, just talking about the discussion that I had 4 or 5 days ago.
You feel it.
I feel it, and I'm, like, triggered.
Hmm. Hmm.
And in case you aren't aware, that's okay. That is okay, because I think that
Hmm.
for me in my state, I often have to go be very mindful of that, mindful of how my body reacts, and also be
Hmm.
very, forgiving of myself. Because I think a lot of times I think before, I would have gone, "I shouldn't feel this way. Why the fuck am I feeling this way? I would try to
Mm.
not feel this way instead of just accepting,
Hmm.
"Okay, I'm in a triggered state
Yes.
right now. Let's acknowledge that. Okay, and either I can try and fight it or I can just
Hmm.
sit in it until I'm not triggered anymore." And so, I mean, but I think I would have gone, "Oh, I shouldn't feel this way." Well, yeah.
I'm Yeah. That's that's a very common response for me. I've had to learn um the difference between intellectualization and um acceptance. I don't know if it's acceptance. So um understanding why I feel a certain way versus the intellectualization. Because understanding why feel this way goes, okay, I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling defensive. I'm feeling triggered because I'm protective. I'm feeling this way now. Now it's not I shouldn't be feeling this way. It's I understand why I'm feeling this way, and it's because of this response, because of this trigger, because of this voice, the IFS, or there's this thing that's causing that, and going, okay, I feel this way, and here's why I feel this way, but that doesn't mean it's wrong to feel this way. It just explains it's my trauma that's kind of triggered this. Whereas in the intellectualization that I've lived in for so long, it's it's easy to kind of miss to overlap the two. The intellectualization is going, I'm feeling this way because of X. I shouldn't feel this way. It's intellectualization is stop feeling this way because you shouldn't or whatever versus I'm feeling this way and I understand why I'm feeling this way and it's maybe something I'm working on, but I do feel this way and that's fine. I feel this way. I do.
Right.
One is accepting the emotion and one is going, no, I shouldn't feel this way. And I had to go through that under trying to wrap my head around that the difference between the two because I would find myself overlapping them. Like intellectualizing when I thought I was doing, this or the other. So that's been part of my journey.
What? Accepting your
I know.
feelings?
Oh yeah,
Stop it.
that's been tough for me. Accepting that
You have feelings?
I have feelings and identifying what those feelings are, that is still difficult. Like I know I'm having a feeling and I know kind of the general area, like level 1, maybe level 2.
I'm actually watching
uh
you, like, I've never because your mic is usually off camera, but how
it's
often
usually yeah.
you play with your mic?
I do. I play with my mic a lot. Yeah. Mhm.
Sorry, it was distracting me.
It's fine.
You're, like, gripping it, like, I was like, "Oh, okay,
I know.
buddy."
Yeah. um But yeah, identifying the emotion, and I'm learning to understand where I feel that, where my body, like you mentioned earlier.
I can tell you where you feel
This,
it.
oh my god, I know where I want to feel. Uh,
I'm sorry, I've got that deep, sexy telephone operator voice. I gotta use it while I
go
can.
right ahead. No, I don't think anyone's gonna stop you. um, but yeah, learning where to feel it, or learning where I am feeling it, recognizing that, and and the one that we talked about this last week was um oh god, I just lost it. Brain fart. It'll come back to me.
ADD.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was ADD. As soon as I started talking about it, it was like, nope, I'm not here. You can't see me. Um, yeah, it'll come back to me,
Okay. Or not, and you'll totally forget about it.
and that's fine.
Um, I don't know. It's. Do you remember a time when, like, you felt really passionate about something and you felt really passionate about something and you, like, especially when you were in the church
Mm-hmm.
and you had to train, like, your body, like, you were triggered, you were like all the things, and you had to literally like fight through the trigger, and not in that one of those good ways, but
Um,
good.
what's the matter?
Um, somebody on YouTube.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, I don't think your YouTube chat feeds into the Twitch stream chat,
No,
does it?
not. No.
Okay. Well, that kind of sounds like the cognitive dissonance where you're trying to hold, you don't really believe it, but you kind of feel like you're supposed to believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good bit. I mean, that's like the entire purity culture. Is I mean,
I still
'cause
have not been able to watch that goddamn video, and I'm like, I really,
that's right.
really
That's
want
a tough one for
to.
yeah.
That is a tough one because it hit on so
Mhm.
many levels. Because it was hitting
Yeah.
because the true love waits and purity culture. Oh, the Panthers are sucking this year. What am I gonna? Sorry,
I know.
I saw the,
I saw an article about it earlier, and I went,
I saw
the
I saw the
Jets
score.
pounded them.
I know. I saw the score come up on my Alexa. Sorry, we're having an
Don't
ADD. Like,
we
like I said, I just woke up like literally 20 minutes before stream, so you're gonna have to forgive me. But like the purity culture like
Mhm.
movement hit right as I was one, like a teenager, two, when I was starting to date and have sex because I was having
Mhm.
sex. Um,
Mhm.
and then all the guilt and shame that hit with
Yep.
that, and I would
Yeah.
often do the yo-yo and the Christian
Mhm.
yo-yo. Oh my
The
god.
cr
Did you
oh,
do the Christian
yes.
yo-yo?
Yeah.
Did you do it?
Absolutely.
Did you?
It was like a
Okay.
roller coaster.
Yeah, oh, yeah, and
Yeah.
for those of you who
Yeah.
don't know what the Christian yo-yo is, okay, let me tell you what it is. So, in case you weren't aware that so I'm gonna take sex, for example, or sexuality or,
Mhm.
like, purity
Mhm.
culture. So say you were told all your life, save yourself for marriage, save yourself for marriage, save yourself for marriage. Then you actually get
Mhm.
put into the situation. So you're told all this before you start dating. You start dating, then you
Mhm.
give in to what is natural urges and what is all of these
Mhm.
things, like you all of that. Then the absolute shame and disgust
Yes.
and
Yes.
self-loathing and self-hatred,
Yes.
and either like you feel that, and depending on how
Mhm.
often you do, like you could do it once and feel like, I mean, obviously you feel that at right after, but it's
Mhm.
like every single time until
Mhm.
then you either break up with that person or you finally are so disgusted and so ashamed of yourself that you go, nope, I am rededicating. Oh, the rededication shit. I am
Yes.
rededication. I'm making
Yes.
a promise. I'm going to, like, I'm not
Yep.
pure. I'm not all this stuff. So
Yep.
you swing right back up,
Swing all the way. Yeah.
all the way up,
Yeah.
and you overcompensate. You go at
You become
radically.
super Yeah.
super
Dedicated. Super Christian. You're super Christian.
super Christian. And then you hold
Yeah.
that for a little bit until you realize that that's not sustainable. Like that isn't like sustainable. And then
Or you start dating someone else.
yeah. And then it's like right
Yeah.
back down. The shame, the
Yeah.
guilt, the self-loathing, and just right back up. And like when
Right
you go
back up.
super radical, like I did with like my music, I threw out
hmm
all of my CDs. I'm going to listen
Yep.
to nothing but Christian. And I was
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
all
I've
of
done that.
that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm
Yeah.
going to get rid of all my clothes that are provocative. And I'm going to do this. And I'm going to read my Bible every day. And I'm going to take notes. And
Yes. I'm gonna read the entire Bible. I'm gonna do my
yes.
devotionals. Yeah, I'm gonna pray. I'm gonna pray every
Surround
morning or
myself. If
every
I
night.
surround myself with Christian stuff, I will not
Yes.
I will live for the Lord.
Gonna get in the Word and like really, yeah.
Oh, now I'm re-triggering myself. Motherfucker.
It is a really bad cycle.
It is a bad cycle. Oh
And
my
and
God.
all throughout this is the shame and guilt of what really is completely natural things. And you're just I call it the roller coaster, but it's the same concept. You're just up, you're so far up, and then you're really far down, and then you just spring because it's never really gradual. It's
Mm-mm.
like the past week Saturday night, you went out Saturday night, you had sex with your significant other or whatever, you did something that led to the shame and guilt, and that fuels Sunday morning. There just happens to be the right song that hits you a certain way, the right Jackie Velasquez song that hits you a certain way, or
Unless it's I on my knees, and then you're like,
on my knees. That hits
me.
differently.
I mean, okay, anyway.
Yeah, and the pastor just
Y'all,
happens to have
listen
that
to
one
that song.
message.
There is nothing about that song that is that was that was Christian. That was subversive Christian. Like, let
Oh yeah,
me stick that in there.
it's good stuff right there. Hey, Calvino, good morning. But yeah, and then the pastor would have this particular message, and like it would cause your shame and your guilt to just explode
Yeah.
into this. Oh my God, I feel so horrible. I'm a terrible person. I need to rededicate. And then the altar call happens, and you're up, in the front
Crying.
crying or whatever. Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's and it's even worse when it's the summertime and you go to your Christian camp. Oh,
Well, but we already
man.
discussed that. I mean, but have we discussed?
Yeah.
Have we discussed Christian camp?
No, we skipped it. No, we haven't done
We
it
did
yet.
Vacation Bible
It-
School, but we haven't done Christian camp. Oh,
No,
you know
we
what?
didn't.
You know
we should
what?
probably do that. Let's do
Oh,
that next week.
Next week.
It is into the summer.
It is. It is. Hold on.
hmm
What's the date? Yeah, next week is the last Saturday of August. Yes, next week we're talking
Perfect. Next-
fucking Christian
Christian
camp.
camp.
Oh God, why am I keep triggering myself?
Oh.
I have my medications. Oh my God, like my body's like, what the fuck are you doing?
What?
Stop
Shut your
it.
mouth. Stop talking.
Stop it.
Stop it. Yeah, exactly. Stop it.
We're triggered enough.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's what we do here. We trigger each other and ourselves.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's cool. It's cool. It's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, no, it's
yeah.
that yo-yo, it's that roller coaster where you go, where
Yeah.
you do that. But the thing is you never reconcile between the two until you start deconstructing, until you start
Mhm.
like you just. And I was thinking about this when you were saying that. There was two things that really hit me that I was like, fuck, something I need to talk about with my therapist. Okay, that's cool. One,
Mhm.
because of that, that's where I don't know about you, Sean, but that's where my fear of making a mistake comes in about not being
Mhm.
perfect is like because
Mhm.
that feeling of deep shame and
Shame.
self-loathing and
Yes.
disgust. And I mean, those are like,
Yes.
those like, oh, those seem pretty harsh. No, that is exactly how I felt. Disgusted, used,
You hate yourself.
ashamed, loathing. I
Yes.
hated myself.
There is, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because you keep doing it. That's the thing, is because you kept doing it. And you knew you kept doing it, but you didn't know, we didn't understand why. We didn't understand what we do now.
And we didn't.
So we would do it. and then
Yeah.
we would hate ourselves for it.
Right. And we didn't
Mhm.
understand that it was like mistakes happen. What did we learn?
Mhm.
How we actually felt. We were feeling that way because somebody else told us to feel that way.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
We were feeling that way because somebody else told us what we were doing was bad. And we never got the critical thinking skills or the self internal reflection skills. We didn't get those things of how do you feel about it,
Mhm.
skills to understand, to really the critical thinking of going, do I really feel bad about what I did?
Mhm.
Or how am I
And you
actually feeling about this? Because honestly, I wouldn't have done it if it didn't feel good or if I didn't want to do it. But the only reason I was
that
feeling bad
Mhm.
about it was because somebody else told me I should feel bad about it.
Exactly.
So my fear
Exactly.
of feeling that self-loathing, it's like if I fuck up, so what did we do, Sean? We don't try. We don't even try it. Or we
Mhm. Mhm.
freak out about it because we're like
Yep.
we hyper focus, hyper extend ourselves so that we do everything perfectly.
And anything short of perfection is failure.
Mhm. And then we go
And
straight
yeah.
into self-loathing,
Yes.
self-disgust. We're a
Mhm.
failure. We're not worth
Yep.
anything. We're
Yeah.
this see, I told you this is why I don't do it.
Yep. See, I see. Yeah, that voice that says the voice that's trying to protect you by telling you that this bad thing is going to happen. That voice gets louder. When really the only reason it's getting louder is because you're feeding it. You're letting it have that space to get louder,
Mhm.
not because it was right, but because you let it talk loud and you
Right.
listen to it.
Right.
Um.
See,
Yeah.
had you not done that, you would not be feeling this way, and that's the
See.
thing, that's what,
Yeah.
like because here's the thing, you're gonna try things and you're gonna fail. That is the reality.
Mhm.
That is the reality that I had to come to, and that is like, you're gonna
Mhm.
fail. You're gonna fuck up. That does not mean you're
Mhm.
failing as a person. That doesn't
Mhm.
mean that you shouldn't try again. That doesn't mean that, w you're like, everybody hates you and that you failed. It just means that it didn't work, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And you're gonna feel that disappointment. You're gonna feel either
Mhm.
angry or disappointed. You're gonna feel those feelings. That is a natural emotion to when you fail at something.
Mhm.
But what you and I were taught is that those feelings got
Yes.
magnified to the point of if we fail, it's a catastrophe and we go catastrophic
Mhm.
and it's just
Yes.
this big thing.
Yes.
S-
Because it's like, well, it's God is watching. Like it's everything, every every step of the way, every thought that we have, every action. The thoughts being the really, really uh, terrible part of that. It's like everything that could possibly, this is bad, that's bad, you did this wrong. There's so many ways, and then we were taught to feel horrible and to ask for forgiveness or to do this thing about everything, especially our thoughts. And that's the really disturbing part of it. And that's what we dealt with for so long, is just having a thought was something that we needed to ask forgiveness for. That was bad. Having a thought, having an opinion, having a, oh no, you don't do that. That's, oh, you need to read your Bible. You need to pray about that. We didn't
Having
get
an
any help.
opinion. Having an
Yes.
opinion. Okay, Sean. All right, I'm about to trigger your ass, motherfucker. All
Oh
right.
God. All right, hold on. Wait. Give me a minute. Okay, I'm ready.
All right, Sean, here you go. Hey, Sean, give me
Mm-hmm,
your
mm-mm.
opinion.
I'm done.
Give me
What?
your opinion. Give me your opinion. What do you think about it?
Well,
No. Yeah. What do you think about this cup right here? I want you to tell me.
what I
I
think about the
like it.
cup,
I like it, but what's
oh,
your
yeah,
opinion?
I
What's your
like it.
opinion?
I like it too. It's a nice cup. It's really, it looks like a really
Oh, you
useful cup.
froze, Sean.
Yeah.
Your camera froze. In
Oh,
a very
hold on.
funny
Oh my God, it sure did, didn't it? Oh Lord, I think I know what happened to it. Oh my god! Can they hear me though? They can probably
Yeah,
hear
they can hear you, but you need to change your Discord or your Twitch picture, boo boo.
me. There we go.
You you look.
Did it come
twisted.
back?
Yes, it did.
Yeah. Okay.
No, the reason I
should-
asked Sean that is
put a picture.
because Sean never, and I was like, I was just as bad about this, but not nearly as bad as Sean was. Hey, Sean, what's your opinion on this? Hey, can you like tell me what you want to do? Or even see,
Mhm.
I would at least have an opinion for things like even for himself. Hey, can you tell me what do you think? He would ask me, what do you think about this? Well, what do you think about it, Sean? Well, no, I want to hear what
No,
you think.
What
I want to hear what you think.
what I expected you to do is to go, I really like this cup. This is really nice. And then I would go, yeah, I like that cup too. And then you'd be like, but this cup really isn't that useful of a cup. I'm really not that big of a fan of it. And then I'd be like, I mean, yeah, I can see where you're going. I can see why you think that way. It's not really that good of a cup. That's what happens.
Well,
I'm reflecting. My opinion is so easy for me
he
to
got
reflect.
so good at not having an opinion and sticking with his opinion that it blends seamlessly like that. Like he's like,
It
well,
did. It absolutely
I mean,
did.
you're right. He's like, what
Yeah.
do you think about it? I want to hear what your thoughts are.
I remember after we rebooted, you would ask my opinion on, or I would ask your opinion on something, and you would go, "Well, I want to know what you think." And I used to get so mad that you wouldn't. I asked you first, and you wouldn't give me your opinion on it. I was mad about that. Like, really? You can't? Why? And then after therapy and blah blah blah, I get to the point where I realized it's because if she does, I'll just parrot it back to her. So now when
'Cause
you
I
do
got
that,
that
I'm
big
like, okay.
brain. I got that big
I
brain.
know, because
son.
you knew what
I
was
knew what you
happening.
were
I
doing.
it took me time to catch up.
5 years later.
5 years. Accurate.
Accurate.
Yeah.
5 years later. Like this was like we were not until
5
he
years
got,
later, and couple therapists.
Yeah, he's finally changed. He got to his current therapist, and he's like,
who's really good. Yeah. Oh,
Oh,
that's what I did. So now
my
whenever
favorite
that
part.
happens,
My favorite
Yeah.
part is when his current therapist keeps going. When Sean goes, Anna Anna told me that. I was like literally, me and his therapist tell him the same exact thing. Like
yeah, it's
almost
it
verbatim.
pisses me off. It does. It yeah.
He's like, "Did you talk to my therapist?" I was like, "I don't even know your
Like,
therapist's name. I still don't know his
Yeah.
therapist's name."
Nope.
That makes him so mad because he's like, I'm like, well, I guess I was right.
She was ready to go.
You mean you should have listened to me like years ago? Okay, cool.
I mean,
But anyway,
You know-
like the church did teach us not to have opinions, but they
Mhm.
because they were trying to, and this all circles back around to the rules that
Mhm.
because if we had opinions, that means we had that they couldn't control us with the rules and the dictates. And I think the problem is it was not. Yeah, we had the 10 Commandments, and we had like the Bible verses that they used to support the rules that they made, but
Mhm.
none of these rules were in the Bible. None of these rules had to do with our faith. None of these rules had to do with anything about our religion or anything to do. It was mandates to keep us controlled, mandates
Yes.
to make sure that we were doing what they wanted us to do, and so that it's like a
Yes.
herd of sheep to keep us
Mhm.
going in the direction that they wanted us to go in. And everybody had to follow those rules because if anybody
Yes.
else was doing their own thing, if you were thinking for yourself, you were not going to follow where they were leading. And
Mhm.
so it was
Mhm.
all unspoken. It was all of these things. And I think that that's why it really bothers me. It's like, because if those of you haven't been aware, I have been very opinionated since I was born.
What?
Ask Jan, John Dondera's mom. Ask her. That's her all-time favorite story about me is when I was 3
Mhm.
years old and she first met me and she got this haircut and it was awful. But everybody, of course, was doing the polite Southern thing, going, "Oh, I like your haircut." And I literally walk up to her and go, what is wrong with your head? Like I like that's no, like, and I have been that
Mhm.
way. And like that was again one of those things that I had to like literally get shamed out of being is having that
Yeah.
opinion because I've always been very opinionated. And
Mhm.
so it's
We
like,
talked about that last night during the stream.
which part?
Actually, it wasn't no so much well, it wasn't so much your opinions, it was being shamed out of remember when we
Oh,
talked
my
about how
intelligence.
the impressions
The
we got of each
impressions,
other?
yes. And everybody's
Multiple
like,
people
yeah.
you were not that their impression of you is you were not as intelligent as you actually are.
I have a genius
Because that
IQ,
got shamed
folks.
out of you.
In case you wanted to know,
Mhm.
I do, and I like
She's a
I'm gonna sound like
she's a smart
Sheldon.
cookie.
I'm gonna sound like Sheldon, but I actually have been tested. Like
Mhm.
my mom was narcissistic enough that she had us all tested. I, I
Mhm.
I'm neurodivergent, but I'm really smart. So
Mhm. That's a deadly combination right there. That's a
it,
fun combination.
with trauma,
Yeah.
trauma spice.
Genius neurodivergent with religious trauma.
I
Wow.
know. That's why I'm as funny
It's
as I
like hitting the
am.
lottery.
Hey. But Lisa
Uh-huh.
fuck good.
I mean, there we go. That balances all of it out. Wow, that took a left
Hey,
turn in
what is it? What
Albuquerque.
was that song say? Hey, I'm a crazy bitch, but a book so good.
See it.
It's fun.
That's the Mendoza diagonal right there. That's the
I do.
crazy and hot. Yeah.
I hit that. It's good. I hit above that line. It's cool.
Mhm. You got to balance it
It's
out.
like
Like
hitting the
hitting the lotto.
lotto.
Yeah.
And I can
Did you just call Kavina? Did you just call a ruse the lotto?
did. He did.
Hmm.
I'm the jackpot.
Yeah,
But
I believe
anyway,
it. I
back
believe it.
we got to no.
So back to yeah, back to not having opinions.
Yeah.
Then you can you tell we're neurospicy?
I know, right? But I wasn't allowed to have those opinions. And
Ooh, we got some cheap viewers on here.
Calvino,
Wow,
I
Calvino,
love
that
Calvino
was
on the band.
fast. My God, I moused over the person and Calvino's like, wham, gotcha. Like
It's
a
like
whack-a-mole.
whack-a-mole.
Mm-hmm.
But we weren't allowed to have opinions. And I was very
Mm-mm.
opinionated. And so it's literally, I think that that's why the trauma runs a lot deeper for me than it does for most, especially when, like,
Mm-hmm.
say, circling back to when trying to come up with agreements. When you put,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even that they were agreements that aren't a normal, natural thing for us to have an agreement on, but it's just the
Mm-hmm.
simple term
Mm-hmm.
we're going to write down, or we're going to have these agreements, we're going to have this whatever. I have to do that, especially in the kink, because you have to have those. What's a yes and a no? What are
Mm-hmm.
you agreeing upon? Those things, and that's still very difficult for me because it's like you're telling me what I can and can't do. Well, which I mean, when you're a
There's
sub, I mean, you're that, but
but it's a combination of coercion and forced agreement.
yeah.
Is you didn't grow up with agreements. You didn't grow up with like two-sided agreements where both of you agreed. You grew up with this is what they decided and you agreed to it. There was no yeah, so I can totally understand why you react that way when that happens
I think I'm a
because it
little
was never really agreement.
right. I think I'm also a little angry because as a female, I think the agreements were
Mhm.
a lot harsher.
That makes sense.
And because not
You feel
only
like there was like double standards kind of thing?
oh, absolutely, because I was
Yeah.
often more talented, smarter, more opinionated than almost
Mhm.
every male I've ever come across, and
Mhm.
to keep me in line, to be the good Christian girl, woman, it was if I was not that, I had to be taught my lesson.
Agreements were weaponized.
Yeah.
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 Ooh.
So
Yeah. Ooh.
agreements,
Ouch.
though agreements and because you have to have an understanding between
Mhm.
any healthy relationship. You have to sit down and talk about this is something that bothers me or this is something that's not okay with me, but this person doesn't think that it's anything wrong. And so you have to have a discussion. You have to come to an
Mhm.
agreement. They are very healthy things. But when you don't when like you said, a mandate, when you are mandated the agreement and you are just expected to just agree whatever is set before you, it becomes a weapon. And so it can become just like vulnerability. Vulnerability can be
Mhm.
weaponized, even though vulnerability is an amazing thing. It is something that pulls you closer to other people that you have to have an intimate, close relationship with somebody. But Sean, how often has our vulnerability been weaponized to the point that just the thought of the thought of I really want to open up to this person sends you into a fucking panic attack.
That right there.
So
Absolutely.
something that is healthy got used as a weapon, and now we're like
Mhm.
over here trying to fucking undo that, and it's not easy, and it
No, it is
sucks.
not. Absolutely.
And your
Because
nervous
we can yeah, go ahead.
and our nervous system
Mhm.
gets triggered.
Yes. We can recognize it in our brain. We can know that this is what's happening, but our nervous system remembers these things and it doesn't connect the same. So our nervous system is going to react the way it's been conditioned to react, regardless of what our brain is telling it. And so that's the thing, to unlearn that, to uncondition that is so difficult.
And it's
No matter
not
what
instant.
our brain is thinking. No, not at all.
Mm-mm. We've both
So
been in.
understanding that that's happening is an important step. It's a big step, but it doesn't undo it.
Mhm.
It just
I've
means it's the process to manage it.
that. I was exactly gonna
Mhm.
say that's what I was gonna say. Exactly that.
Yeah.
We've been in intensive therapy for a couple of years now, and like, and it's not easy, and recognizing the triggers, but recognizing when somebody's thrown a match on that pile of garbage that you're carrying around, because that's
Yes.
basically what it is. It is a trash bag, and somebody's throwing a match in it. They don't, and most of the time, because when you're with you have healthy relationships, friendships, partners,
Mhm.
whatever, when you have that, they don't know that they're throwing a light on it. They don't know what they're doing. They're just living their
Mhm.
life. They don't know. And then all of a sudden you're holding a bag of shit in your hands and you're like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
panicking, you're doing your nervous system, and they're like, what the fuck just happened? Like they don't know.
The first healthy relationship after a toxic one. Oh, it's a whole lot of that. Um, yeah. Like
Yeah.
the video of the lady bringing the luggage into her next
Her
relationship.
first relationship, she has
Yeah.
her little purse. Okay,
Little
yes.
clutch.
The next one, she's like hauling all her shit. Um,
Yeah, that's what it is.
But yeah, just
Um,
because you're aware of
mhm.
it doesn't mean it's going to stop it. And so that's where communication and being able to talk about it is important.
Yes, yes, it does, Jay. Um, you're talking about opinions, and being able to. It made me think about one of the big struggles that I continue to have. What makes me part of what makes me conflict averse is the fear that I will not maintain my perspective, my opinions, my boundaries. It's the fear that the person will convince me to go against what I know is best for me. Um, so that's a big reason I avoid a lot of that is I don't want, like, setting a boundary. That's the thing, setting a boundary. I'm so worried that I'm gonna end up falling back to, oh, well, okay, you know what? You're right. It's not a big deal. Like, they're going to convince me that I don't need a boundary, which, hint, is proof that I do need a boundary.
Oh,
If you right, yeah, if you ever need an indication that you need a boundary, it's when someone tells you you don't need the boundary. Um, so, but yeah, but I'm so because that's been my experience in much of my life. That was my experience growing up. Because when you grow up in a religion, you're not allowed boundaries. Um,
Or
so
privacy.
or privacy, yeah. So all through my life and in my relationships, I didn't have good boundaries. I wasn't allowed to have clear boundaries, and I didn't work to set that because I didn't know how to, and no one taught me how to either. I didn't have people in my life because I grew up in the church. My parents almost had boundaries, healthy boundaries. So like I didn't know I didn't know even know what that meant. I didn't know what a boundary was until near the end of my marriage. I'm dead serious. I didn't know what a boundary that boundary existed, what that even meant until she bought a book about boundaries. Um, so it's such a foreign concept to me. So my fear when setting a boundary is that they will talk me out of it. And I'll just, it's not a big deal. It's fine. Okay, you're right. You're right.
Mhm,
And so it's really difficult for me to set boundaries.
mhm.
Um, so yeah.
Same.
Ah,
Um, for me, it's boundaries is difficult. But because luckily for me, I've always been opinionated, so like
mhm,
that that's it was difficult, and it is difficult, and it's still difficult for me. Um,
mhm,
but it's not. I don't think it's as hard of a struggle for you or for me as it is for you.
mhm,
Which is fine because we're different
mhm,
people. But here's the one that is my biggest struggle for me is transparency versus private, like privacy
Ooh,
and that transparency. Because growing up,
yes.
I didn't have, because of the lack of boundaries, because boundaries didn't exist, because other people, I was dictated on how I should be and who I should be and what I should look like for my
Mhm,
entire life, that I didn't understand. And so I tried to, at me as a person, to try to live, at least hold on to some semblance of who I was, I kept it secretive. I kept
mhm,
it like a secret. I kept
yes.
the clothes that I like, the music that I wanted to listen to. I learned how to be sneaky and deceptive and lie about things that were
Mhm.
innocuous, that were just totally not things that you shouldn't have to be ashamed of or hide. But
But in
that
your world,
right. And that's what
mhm,
taught me. That's
yeah,
what I trained my body to do, is like I lived this
mhm,
one life in public, but I was a second person and I kept this one completely separate. And I learned how to
mhm,
lie and keep it a secret. I learned how to lie to
mhm,
this, no, I'm not doing this, and learn how to manipulate. That's what I taught was
mhm,
learned. So
mhm,
as over time in my marriage or in my relationships with people, I didn't understand that it I needed that what people wanted was transparency from me and having privacy, that I'm allowed to have privacy. I'm allowed to
mhm,
have things that are of my own that I don't have to share with anyone, even my spouse, but at the same time,
mhm.
having to be completely honest about things that were happening in my life. So I
It's
carried that over into my marriage. Is I was lying about things that were
mhm,
literally like I would buy something or I would do something that in a healthy relationship I go, "Hey, I did this thing." And we talk about it and we move about our life, but I was so terrified that my spouse was going to get so angry at me that I would hide it
mhm,
and lie about it and
mhm,
conceal it until they
mhm.
discovered it. And then it becomes this vicious cycle. And it's like,
Then it's something that shouldn't have been a big deal became a big deal because you felt the need to hide it. And that act of hiding it, whether or not you were justified in doing so, from the other person's perspective, it's immediately becomes, well, why were you hiding it?
right,
There must be something
right,
bigger
right.
because you hid it, even though there really wasn't.
And the only reason I hid it is because I hid it because I
Mm,
was afraid that if they discovered that I was whatever, that they wouldn't love me. That I was going to feel that
mm,
shame and that guilt and that disgust, and
yep,
that I was going to feel all of those
yep,
things.
yep. That protector was. information regarding
That I mean, honestly, Jay, that
that's
is
pretty
actually that
good.
is pretty accurate. Yeah. And so, hey,
Uh,
I'm going to this place, but I am not but my privacy is like, hey, I'm going out with friends, but my
uh-huh.
privacy is that you don't have to know every single step of what I'm doing when I'm doing it.
Mhm.
I'm drinking this, I'm eating this, I'm having this, like, we're going to do this. This was what was said. Like, no, I'm allowed to have a conversation with
Mhm.
somebody else and they don't know they don't know the context of what I'm talking about, but I can say,
Yeah.
hey, I'm having this conversation with this person.
So does that make the secret where you put the poop? I'm
Get out.
just trying to carry
Get
the
out.
okay.
Get out.
Um, but that's the one thing that I see a lot. That was a problem in my relationship, and I see it in in some other relationships is that privacy secrecy or the having privacy or privacy and transparency that gets very muddied. And that happened in my marriage where like we did the typical, oh, you have my passwords, I have your passwords, I got nothing to hide, whatever. Um, and it became a problem because the person felt the need to then snoop, which again, I didn't feel like I had anything to worry about. But then they were looking for something, and then they found something that to me was innocuous, yet they took as evidence of what they were looking for, what they were trying to prove. They didn't trust me, and they were looking for evidence not to trust me. So of course they found messages that to them meant, oh, I can't trust him now. I'm like, I'm like, there's not to me there was nothing wrong with that with what she found. 'Cause I wasn't even worried when she picked up, and so that creates like that's where I'm like, oh yeah, that's a problem. I need to me, and I'm like, I don't think that it's agreed upon your relationship, but for me, I don't feel like the person needs to have that level of access to my stuff because to me that violates my privacy. Whether it's my email address, access to my phone, that kind of stuff. I'm like, no, that you don't need that. Just because I don't give that to you doesn't mean that I'm being secretive and I'm hiding something. I need privacy. And I didn't understand that until that situation
That's the
that
most
happened while I
trauma.
was married.
Facts, Jay. Facts. Jay
Yeah.
says that's the most
Yeah,
trauma flavored
absolutely.
confirmation bias. Yeah. And
Yeah.
absolutely.
See, what's interesting is after that happened, I've now gotten I because of that, I now get anxious
Mhm.
when anyone touches my phone.
And it's not that you have anything to
Again,
hide.
I got nothing to hide, but as soon as someone picks up my phone, I get triggered because it takes me right back to what happened before.
Mhm. Right.
So, and that's so anyone I'm in a relationship with that has to be that has to be something we agree upon. And if that other person feels that they have to have that level of access, and I'm not willing to give them that level of access,
Yeah.
then that's a problem, and we have
That's
to address that
and that's
then and
something
not later.
right. And then that's something that's
Mhm.
like, if that's something I need, I'm like, you're not getting it. That's a non-negotiable. Like,
And
I
if they
think
can't
that
handle
that's
it,
and they can't
mhm,
then this is not gonna work because that's a level of trust that
mhm,
but Sean, I because
mhm.
of that, I was trained to go, okay, well, if again, here's my
Here you
phone,
go.
here's my email address. I'm not allowed I'll have
Mhm.
to keep my door open. I can't and then you adjust your life because I wanted to be open and honest. I wanted to, but at the
You
same
give up
time,
your privacy.
right, I give up everything and then I don't then I'm
Mhm.
miserable
Yeah.
because I am being transparent, I'm being open, but I'm also not doing anything and it's like,
There's a there's a certain amount where like, okay, at some point you got to trust me. Trust is not having full access to the other everything of the other person's. That's not trust. Because if you had trust, you wouldn't need that. If you have access to everything, you have no trust
mhm,
because there's what is there to trust? You're not giving them the opportunity. Um So you there's got to be, for me, there's got to be that level of, if you don't trust me, especially if there's nothing that has happened to throw that, if you don't trust me because of your last relationship, and you want my privacy because of that, that's a you problem. That's something you got to work on,
But
not
how
me.
much how
I'm
much
not giving up my privacy.
how much privacy did you have in the church though? Because
No,
again,
oh, none.
we were taught that even God can hear our thoughts. So we were taught that
Yes.
again, and that causes a trauma response. Like you said, when
Hmm.
when somebody touches your phone, even though even when you hand it to them, you willingly go, "Hey, can you send I can't right now. My hands are like I'm cooking, my hands are gross. Can
Yeah.
you check that
Oh my
message?"
god.
Can you
Oh
and you are telling them and you have nothing to hide
yeah.
and you are giving them permission to touch your phone and check that message or send this message or look something up.
Hmm.
And yet your body is still going, "What the fuck are you doing?" Like that is
My
a trauma response. Like,
It is. My brain is spinning through the text messages, the pictures, the websites. Like, my brain is immediately spinning through the catalog of information on my phone,
mhm,
going, what are they going to find that I've done wrong? What are they going to find that they interpret as wrong?
mhm.
Because if you go looking for trouble, you're probably going to find trouble. If you go looking for a reason not to trust someone, you're probably going to find it.
And especially when
That's
and the whole reason as
Mhm.
somebody with BPD and mental illnesses,
Yeah.
yay, and it doesn't matter how innocent or whatever the
Hmm.
message is, your brain, your emotions will spin that story into making it
Yes.
justified because
Yep.
you had to spin the stories, you had to tell yourself the
Hmm.
lies, you had to make shit up, especially for me in the church, that cognitive dissonance to make that discomfort, to make the cognitive dissonance make sense.
Yes. Yep.
A plus B didn't equal C, A plus B equals Z, and I had to add the formula to make sure that it equaled Z.
Hmm.
So A plus B minus, T times S will equal Z. When none of that existed.
Mm.
And it didn't equal Z. It actually equaled C.
It was something completely different.
Yeah.
Yeah. The lessons we learned growing up in the church have not served us
Thank
well.
you, autocorrect car radios that read your messages out loud for giving me
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, anybody who the CarPlay and like you're driving and somebody texts you. And again, like I don't have the read text on because my conversations with my friends are too lewd and crude and socially unacceptable that I don't want my
To
kids hearing it.
expose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean it's not that
Yeah.
I'm trying to hide anything from anybody. It's just that my kids don't need to hear the shit me and my friends talk
Yep.
about.
Yep.
Even though they
Yep.
probably talk about the same shit because they're, in middle school. But um yeah, it's like when those who's that? What are you doing? Yeah.
Oh, here's one.
Oh,
Who you texting? Who you texting?
yeah.
Wow. Wow. You're pretty popular today. You're getting a whole lot of text.
I had to stop telling
Yeah.
my friends I love them.
I, I'm not surprised. That's rough. I had to do similar
I
stuff.
love my friends and I love telling you, I love you. I love you. Like I
Hmm.
do. Because it's not a romantic type of love, but I do love my friends. I am fiercely loyal
Hmm.
and I deeply love
Hmm.
you. I love Jay. I love Calvino. And I say that in a group
Hmm.
setting, but like if I'm in it, like I can't I don't say it.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah, because of what the other person will interpret it as.
Why are you saying you love them?
Yeah.
I even got in trouble by somebody else's spouse because I put a heart emoji and just said heart you. Like it wasn't even I love you. It was just like heart you. Like cuz he was having a rough day and I just was like, being supportive and I was like,
Yeah.
"Well, I heart you. Let me know if you need anything." Why is she saying I love you?
Whoa. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. You ever do the face down phone thing? You ever are certain people, if you're around certain people, the phone goes face down?
Oh, my phone
Mhm.
goes face down all the time.
Yeah. That's usually a trauma response.
Trauma response. And then so many people are like,
Because
why are you
someone
hiding it?
reading the
Why are you hiding it?
Yes, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, Lee, holy
And that's the thing and see, that's the bullshit. Okay. Okay, I'm about to go off on a rant.
Yeah, here we go.
Okay. That is the bullshit that they tell you. Like, that is the bullshit that when you go to healing, that is
Mhm.
total horseshit because the fact that okay, here I have my phone and so their ex was like cheating on them or doing something
Mhm.
inappropriate or whatever. And so they would keep their phone face down. So that triggers them. Whereas in for you,
Mhm.
keeping your phone face up triggers you. So here's this this discussion where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, well, my ex cheated on me and so if you didn't have anything to hide, you keep your phone up. Well, okay, but that's for you to handle and for me to
Yes.
go, okay, this is my phone. And if you want to keep your phone face up, you can, but I'm going to keep mine
Mhm.
down because I don't feel like it's necessary. And again, that's one of those, well, what's the big deal? You don't want to upset them. Keep your phone up. It's not a big deal. Actually, so why should I be triggered to keep them from being triggered? Why should I have to handle their
Mhm.
emotions where they leave no room to handle mine? And again, that is an agreement that you must come to. You have to go,
Mhm.
and accept, I understand that this triggers you. However, I
Mhm.
am not going to sit here and try and adjust myself because you need to not be triggered. That's not okay.
Mhm.
And we need
Mhm.
to have a discussion about it. And if that's a non-negotiable for you, then then we're gonna have to sit in this and we're gonna have this discussion. Because like
Mhm.
again, you and it's like, oh, it's a minor thing. Why don't you just leave your phone up? Okay, well, so I
Mhm.
compromise on this minor thing, and then all of a sudden when it's a major thing, it's then they expect me to accommodate that major thing, but it's still a trauma response for me. It's still a trigger for me. Why
Mhm.
in my trauma and my triggers and my things less important than your traumas? And it's not. And I'm not saying that theirs is
Mhm.
more or less important than mine, but we have to be responsible for our own shit. When somebody throws a
Yes.
match on it and when you're both throwing a match at the same time, and both of your trauma responses go up and
Mhm.
both of your shit's on fire and you first off you have to understand that when you both are triggered you have to have the we're both triggered, we need to stop. It's
Mhm.
not walking away, it's putting pause so that you can regulate your
Yep.
system because when you
Yep.
both are on fire, when you're both triggered, you guys aren't getting anywhere productive. One,
Mhm.
two, so you said then when you have been able to regulate yourselves, you then come back and revisit this discussion and understand that you both are coming at it from an equal point of view, not one more than the other, and be able to communicate that clearly without being defensive as well as being accusatory. And that's a
Mhm.
very difficult place to be because what
Yeah.
happens when you refuse to put your phone face up and they refuse to accept that you put your phone face down?
Or when you put your phone face down and they flip it face up. Yeah. Those are important things that have to be discussed. And it's important to recognize our own traumas. My last relationship this happened. They cheated on me, whatever. And so this is why you putting your phone face down. This is why I respond that way. But that's mine to deal with, not yours. I can't put that on you. And especially if it's one thing if the other person doesn't really have a dog in that fight, or the other person doesn't really like, okay, that's fine. I don't even pay attention. I just happen to put my phone down.
Right.
But
So
in a
if
lot of
it doesn't
cases,
bother you, here, put it. Okay, pick it up. I don't care. Like,
okay, that's fine, whatever. It's a habit. Like some people, it's a habit where they put with the way they put their phone. But if the other person doesn't care, that's fine. But a lot of times, your trigger and the other person's trigger hit each other. You trigger each other because of the trauma in your life, and that's where you really have to talk about it and figure out. And again, talk about it like this is why I act this way, and this is what I'm working on, and not just to go, okay, it's your responsibility to deal with my trigger. And those are big deals in relationships, and they need to be. There's something that needs to come up and be dealt with early on because it's not going to go anywhere good if it's not.
Mm-mm.
So yeah,
And it's hard. It's hard
it is.
because I think
It is.
that's those understanding your triggers, because some of these triggers will go away over time, and
Hmm.
you'll retrain your nervous system when you're finally in a healthy relationship. You'll retrain your nervous system that once
Hmm.
something that once triggered you hardcore no longer even phases you. Like
Hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely possible.
Sean, you and I both have triggers with each other that like we
We
don't even
do.
think about anymore. Like we're just like
Yeah. Ah,
we,
okay. Yeah. But after the reboot, we had a lot of triggered. We triggered each other.
yeah.
But over time, as we've dealt with those, as we've individually been in therapy,
Yeah.
because we didn't look at each other and go, oh, okay, it's your trigger, and I won't. No, we're like, okay, these are the things that I need to deal with, my trust issues or whatever. So yeah, now we just kind of
Yeah. Like it doesn't,
yeah,
I mean,
you can
and then there are some triggers that are the trauma is so deep that you are just going to have to accept that you're going to feel triggered and uncomfortable. It just becomes a place where you can now recognize it, vocalize
mhm,
it, and regulate yourself. And those are like the
yes,
steps of it. So you can't stop the trigger. You can't stop somebody lighting that you're lighting your trash
hmm,
on fire. However, you can, oh, my trash is on fire. Hey, my trash is on fire. Let me deal with this for a second and then put the fire out. And then
yeah,
that's like move on. Whereas in before, somebody
hmm.
would light your trash on fire and you would just like, ah.
You throw the trash in the air, so it
Yeah, you'd throw it at
made it
them.
worse.
You would throw it everywhere.
Yeah,
Like you would spread the fire everywhere, and then
you
it just
would.
becomes the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it's but in us, in that trying not to, because as a people pleaser, as a former Christian, it's one of
Hmm.
those, we were taught to put other people's comfort, other people
Yes.
ahead of ourselves, that we weren't allowed any
Hmm.
privacy, that we weren't allowed to
Hmm.
fail, that we weren't like that so all of these things are deeply ingrained and deeply rooted into our psyche and
Yeah.
our conditioning, and it's so difficult.
Hmm.
And it's not as simple as think people who see people who are deconstructing from Christianity, they're like, "Oh, they must be better now. They can just be themselves. They can live however they like."
Hmm.
And that's one part of it. Yes, we you see us being happier and more free, and that sense of
Hmm.
being ourselves. But there's that whole other underlying thing that you struggle with, that you that a lot of people don't see unless you've gone through it. That
And it's, hmm,
literally
go ahead.
dismantling everything. You are
Yes.
dismantling everything about your problem solving skills, your interrelational skills, your
Your
coping
perspective.
mechanisms, your perspective on life
Hmm.
and people. You are, when we say
And
deconstructing,
yes,
you are completely dismantling. And sometimes it is dismantling the entire structure.
because you don't know, you realize that, or there's a point where you're like, you don't know w- what your belief is, where that belief came from. Like you don't realize. I mean, it's taken years of therapy and our podcast, everything to really understand that this is what I do and this is where it comes from.
Right.
There's so many things that we behave, so many ways that we respond and communicate, and it all, our perspective, the way we think of the world, our worldview, comes back to things that were done when we were a kid, when we were young, growing up in the church, and that's what we've had to dismantle, and it's hard. It's hard to question. It's exhausting to question all of that and rebuild all of that.
Mhm. Where do you feel it in when you're triggered? What is a normal triggered response for you?
So when I trigger, I retreat.
Mhm.
Most of the time. Um, I feel I feel like my stomach gets queasy. I feel it like in the back of my throat. Like I feel, yeah, I feel it like back of my throat, and my my brain tends to kind of shut down a lot, and a lot of times when I get triggered
Hmm.
in the retreat, I become like I don't there are some thoughts, but like there's no real processing. There's no processing. That's really what's happening. There's no processing going on at all. Like if someone when if someone comes at if someone what I perceive okay, I was gonna I was gonna say if someone like comes at me, but that's usually not what happens. When someone says something and I perceive it as an attack, because that's one of the things that I'm dealing with.
Right.
When I perceive it as an attack, I pull back and like and the person goes, okay, so what do you think about that? Well, like, what are your thoughts on that? And I have nothing. My brain has shut down when it comes to processing anything. And so I end up it's silent. And the person, it's easy for the other person to perceive that as as me being apathetic. You don't have anything to say because you don't care. No, I do care, but I'm triggered, and right now my brain is not processing anything.
Mhm.
Um, really hard for that's something I've been working on and is really difficult for me. It's difficult to kind of like the brain grinds to a halt. My processing grinds to a halt. It's really difficult to keep my brain processing even a little bit so that it doesn't completely shut down. Because once it shuts down, I'm done. I mean I gotta regulate myself first. But I've been working on keeping the brain from at least completely shutting down, so I'm at least responding and as much as I feel like and as much as I can at that moment. And also then communicating that, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Communicating that I know I'm triggered and that right now I'm just not processing anything.
Mhm.
That's what happens to me.
For
What about you?
me, I get
Mhm.
I either do one of two things. I get I do like that, but I get it's that freeze response. It's not
Mhm.
retreat, it's freeze.
Mhm.
That panic. I feel that panic.
Mhm.
And I do get quiet, but it's like I literally my entire body freezes. And it's like
Mhm.
stunned, and or I get very defensive. I get because if
Ooh,
I'm
yeah.
triggered, because most of the time, a lot of my triggered responses with me defending my actions or defending myself or defending this. So I get like, I start getting just, if I get triggered, I start like finding ways to attack. So it's that fight or flight, a freeze response. I don't flee. I don't like that. I don't
Mhm.
run. I literally freeze or I'm fighting. And those are my two responses. I'm either
Mhm.
fighting like fuck or I am just completely frozen in space in that space. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's usually what happens when I'm
I
triggered.
get defensive also. As you well know, I get defensive. Yes, I get very defensive, but my response to my defensiveness is different than yours.
Yes.
It's like especially like when you get when you get defensive, you then go into the attack. Because best defense is good offense. I when I get defensive, I'm like fortifying usually, and I'm just locking everything down. There's nothing that's happening. But in my head, my brain is churning and I'm thinking of all the reasons you're wrong and I'm right. But I don't say them. I usually don't say them. Um, if I do start, if I until I've started to learn that that's what's happening. When I would speak, that's what would come out. When I was like when I felt when I was forced to say something, oh you just don't care. When I did actually say something, it was usually one of those defensive things.
Mhm.
Well, you just didn't understand. Well, that's not what I meant. That was my first response was not validation. It was straight up, you're wrong, and here's why.
Mhm.
Or I'm not wrong, and here's why. So yeah.
Yay,
Yay,
try.
defense mechanisms. Triggers and
Lighting our shit on fire.
God, yeah. So there we are. That's us. It's
Oh, gracious.
taking lots. So we're in therapy.
Yeah,
A lot of
exactly.
therapy.
A lot of therapy.
Mhm.
All right, I have to pee. So you want to tell everybody what's happening for the rest of the week so we can close
Sure.
this out?
Yeah, you gonna go pee while I tell everybody, or you gonna?
No, you go ahead.
No?
I'm an
Okay.
adult enough. I can wait till the end of the show, but I'm just saying.
Okay, so today is Sunday, right? So this week we've got happening on Tuesday. We have Three Bards and a Dragon. That is at 7:30 Eastern on the Team AOA channel. I was gonna try to bring up the. Let's see if this works. Nah, okay, I gotta fix my buttons. So on the team _AOA channel on Twitch, we have Three Bards and a Dragon. That is where we roll a d20 and let it ruin our lives. And it's so much fun. We had a terrific episode this last Tuesday. If you didn't check it out, if you missed it, whatever, it's still video on demand, so go check it out. We had a Christmas party. We had the holiday party. Oh my god. Yeah, and we recruited for Domcore. It was great. It was a good time. Yeah, and then all right. So Wednesday is Let's Build with Pep. It is I'm continuing to build the D&D set, the Lego D&D set. It's fantastic. I'm a little over halfway through now. So I'm excited to continue building on that on Wednesdays, and that's at 7:30 on my channel. That's Dorian Sombra. And then on Thursday, can't forget Thursday. Thursday is our good friends Bronner Ray and Nick. Bronner Ray and Nick that are on the BRB network on YouTube. It's not Twitch, it's on YouTube. BRB network, and they have their podcast
Dorks on Demand.
They have the podcast Dorks on Demand. So they talk about nerd stuff. It's the old CCTV crew, in case you ever check out the CCTV channel. So that is at 7 o'clock Eastern on their YouTube channel, BRB network. And then that brings us to Sunday.
Unless
back
you
to waking
stream,
up.
unless you stream impromptu gaming like we did last night.
Yes. So that is all the planned content that we have for the week, but you never know when we're going to pop up. Sometimes you'll get it in the middle. Sometimes you'll get some streaming of the Team AOA. Sometimes you'll get individual. You never know. Just follow our channels and look for the notifications, and come hang out with us. Watch our content. Watch us. Oh God, watch us pirate. Yeah, last night was crazy.
Sean, get away from the wheel. Now I'm going to steer. Just move.
But I could do it. So yeah, good times. Good times.
All right, anyway,
the
thanks
week.
for joining us, and we will
Mhm.
talk to you guys later. Bye.
Yep.
Did you really just high five over me right
No,
now?
we didn't.
And we're live. Hello.
Wait, last week.
You don't even do that well from the front seat.
Okay.
The bear is coming with the carpet spoon.
That's
Oh,
a straight up
no.
PBR for the table.
Yeah.
I think it called.
She ain't judging us at all.